What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested about being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a former head coach, longtime assistant coach, individual that I have something in common with, and that's having a chance to coach Phil Goss for several years. We both had a chance to coach him for 4 years. I had him in high school, and the guest we have is, he had him as a college player for 4 years, so he got him as a freshman as well. I just remember the first time, Coach Flint called and said, this guy's just a terrible practice player. And I was like, just wait till the lights come on. He'll be a gamer. So he's a Philadelphia native as well. I want to reference to this, bring to the show James Bruiser Flint. You'll never hear me call him by his first name on this show. He's known as Bruiser Flint to me and everyone else around in the basketball world. And I want to make sure I, say something about his bio and how impressive it is to me. And I think a lot of people don't understand how well he's done in college basketball, not just on the floor, but off the floor, especially educating these young men. Bruiser was an outstanding player at St. Joseph's University, which he was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame at St. Joe's. And then from there, he went straight from playing to coaching college basketball at Coppin State with the legendary Fang Mitchell for 2 years before going up to UMass and coaching for 7 years with John Calipari, who's now the head coach in Kentucky. He was an assistant there, associate head coach. And a lot of times people don't, that's the title he definitely earned. And once, Coach Calipari leave to go to the NBA, Coach Flint, Bruiser ends up staying on as the head coach at UMass for 5 years, where he did an outstanding job. He went to 2 NCAA tournaments and 1 NIT while he was there for those 5 years. And then in 2001, he began his career at Drexel University. So he goes back home for 15 years at Drexel University, where he did an outstanding job, where he had a chance to go, to many postseason plays, even won the league in 2012, I believe, 4-time CAA Coach of the Year. I mean, that's a feat within itself. Everybody being in the league, and he was in the league when it was VCU, Old Dominion, George Mason were all good, and including UNC Wilmington. So there were some tough teams. Northeastern, who came into the league, those were good teams as well. So he was also 4-time NABC Coach of the Year as well. 20 years as a head coach in this business, 12 as an assistant. Someone I think has done an awesome job, winning 65% of his games in the Atlantic 10, 14 of his 20 years. I mean, you're talking about 70% of his coaching. He was, had a winning record. I think that's an outstanding job. And I just want to welcome to the show Coach Bruiser Flint.
What's happening, man?
What's up, man? I know that's impressive to me. Being a guy who's been in the business and seeing that, that's impressive to me. And I think some of these young guys should, they should actually reach out to you. That's what this show about, and pick your brain a little bit. And now you're doing an outstanding job at Indiana. And I didn't mention that, he's been there for the last, 3 years now after taking a year off, but and turning that program, trying to get it back to where it once was, one of the, best programs in the country. It's a beautiful place to play. So, like I said, Bruiser's a guy that I've always looked up to, especially from day one when he had one of my former players who, had an outstanding career for him. And then he still goes back and talks to Bruiser about life. So, like I said, Bruiser, let's go ahead and get unmasked. You don't get guys like you up here every day. So I definitely welcome you to the show. Right. Now, this is going to go back to your early days, and it's going to be, first time you get out. You've been on that side. You know what playing is like. You've seen coaching, but we all know there's no handbook to being a college coach. It's just you're thrown to the wolves. You go to orientation. You go to human resources. Like, tell me, and you get to work for Fang Mitchell, legendary Fang Mitchell, but tell me about that first day, the first week, first month. I mean, after things are done with all the, human resources stuff, like I said, especially when no one gives you direction. What was that like?
I actually lived with Fang my first 3 weeks of the of my job there, and actually I used to drive to work with him every morning. That was an experience. If anybody knows Fang, but we actually Fang actually told me I was going to make $12,000 a year. This is in 1987, 87, 88, and when I get down there, he says, I don't have 12, I only got 6. So we're going to get you a place to live, because the guys on the team and the wrestling team, they all live together. So they lived in like this little, I wouldn't even call it was like a dorm, but so they asked me I was going to be like the RA, like being an RA, and coach the guys. So that was an experience. So they moved me in. We had one kitchen, and so if you was hungry, then they shut the kitchen down at certain times of the night, and so you had to. So it was like living in a dorm again. So, but he only gave me 6,000, and he said, "All right, go ahead." But I will say, he let me recruit. He let me do a lot of stuff like academics. I worked out pretty much. And I was still playing because I was right out of playing, so I would play pickup with the guys and do all that stuff like that. I guess you weren't supposed to do that, but I was doing it. And then I would work guys out. So Fang just, he actually threw me in the fire. You know what I mean? Go out, get some guys, come in here, do all those things. When you work in the HBCUs, you got to be all hands on deck. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. And Fang let me do my thing. It wasn't easy, because Fang is hard. Fang was hard back then. So, but he let me do my job. He let me go out and do what I needed to do. We argued a lot because I was a guy who had a lot of ideas, and he would tell me to shut up most of the time. But he let me go out and do a lot of things. Him and Derek Brown, who became the women's coach at Coppin State, still one of my best buddies to this day. They showed me a lot about working and coming in. And like I said, when you work at the HBCU, it's all hands on deck. You better be able to do a lot of things. And they let me do them. And they let me learn a little bit trial by error.
Awesome. And this is going to be a two-part question, only because you've been a head coach, for most of your career. Like, first part is consistent though, but like, what was your best and worst recruiting story? And that could be when you were at Coppin, when you were at UMass, like now even at Indiana, like what was your best and worst recruiting story?
I don't know. I would probably say, if it was funny, I probably had my craziest recruiting stories at UMass with Cal, because we went some places, you know what I mean? And I remember being in New York, and we was in the projects in New York, and it was so hot. I mean, it had to be like 100 degrees this day, and we're dressed. That's when you got dressed to go and recruit. And now guys don't get dressed anymore. Now, you had a jacket and tie on. It's like 90 degrees outside. We in the project, no air conditioning. You know what I mean? It's fans blowing, and it's like 8,000 people walking through the house. And not only that, too, the elevator was broke. Now, this is like late 80s, early 90s. So now walking down the steps in them projects, you never know what was going to be in there. Well, the diapers is in, diapers full of poop was in there. You didn't know what you were stepping on, and they lived on the 10th floor. That was one of the craziest. That probably was the craziest one I've ever been involved with, because one, Cal almost got naked coming down the steps after we left the house. He was sweating so bad coming out of the boy's house. And then just walking down the steps, having to walk all the way down the flight of the steps from the 10th floor, and not knowing, just watching. Lights was out in the steps, you know what I mean, in the stairwells and stuff. I mean, that one right there was crazy. But we made it out alive. We made it out alive. So that wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad. The ones I liked when the moms used to cook. Those were the good ones for me, because they'd be like, all right, because you didn't have to do that much talking because you was doing all eating. So, but Moms, they used to cook, and those were the ones I really liked. I probably say my own experience, the toughest when I recruited a kid. Everybody thought we were going. My first year at UMass, they thought we were going on probation, um, because of the Marcus Camby situation. And I did go on a home visit, and the mom absolutely crushed me in there. She kept saying, I don't know why you're here. My son's not going somewhere where they're getting in trouble and all. It was so bad that when we left, the kid, the high school coach, and his sister, they actually apologized to me when I was leaving. They're like, yo, man, I'm sorry. Man, I didn't think it was going to be like that. But you know how coaching is. The coaches were killing me. Yo, you don't send him there. He going, the other coaches you're recruiting against, they going on probation. And the mom must have listened. They must have gave her a script because she went at me, and then all she talked about was us getting in trouble. But other than that, I think I've always had pretty decent experiences because you sort of know what you're getting yourself into when you go in these homes and stuff like that. And a lot of times the coach, if they think the home situation is not good, they make you meet at the school. So, it's not, I wouldn't say it hasn't been that bad. I think some of the things have been pretty good. So I can't say I've had really that bad,
guy. Being a, now you're a head coach, and do you recall anything where an assistant did a great or horrible job recruiting?
I would say yes. And one of the things I used to always tell our guys, don't spin your wheels. And we don't need you don't really need no favors. If we know we're not getting them, just say we're not getting them. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. We don't have to go see them. We don't have to do all that. Guys don't pay no attention to you. You can tell when you're in the home. You've been in them home when man, I got no chance. We wasting our time right now. We need to just get up and we just need to go. That's what I always tell my guys. Don't have me go somewhere where I think we spinning our wheels. Don't have me ask the question, why we here? You know what I mean? Because you can tell when you walk in the room whether or not you really got a chance or not. So I think that's one of the things that I would say. But I always told my whole thing, and Cal used to tell me this. He was like, you don't have to sign them. Just get me involved and I'll have to close the door. So that was always his thing. And I think I took the same approach as a head coach. Like, if you're going to get them on campus, we can get them on campus, or you get me in the home. Now this is my job. This is where I got to do my job. You know what I mean? So I always looked at it that way. So I'm not asking you to sign anybody. I'm just asking you to get me to the point where I can try to close it, and we can just go from there.
Awesome. Now, you were named the head coach at UMass. First time having your program. You think about that. That's like less than 9 years out of college. You out of college. You're excited to have your own program. What happens over the next few months when you finally got your job?
Well, I had actually interviewed for 2 jobs. I had interviewed for Northeastern and St. Joe's. And so I think I was like, I feel good about it's my time. Although I was only 30, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? It's my time. When I actually got the job, I was actually 29. So I was like, I was turning 30 in the summer. So I was like, it's my time. It's my, I felt comfortable becoming a head coach. And Cal actually said to me, you want to come with me to the Nets, or you want to stay and be the head coach? She said, if you want to stay and be the head coach, I'll make sure you get this job. Like, you're going to get it. But if you don't want, you ain't think you're ready to get, because he told me, he said, it's going to be hard. You know what I mean? So he said, but if you don't want to go, we'll just go to the pros together. It's not a big deal. I always tell everybody I should have known I was in trouble from the negotiations of the contract. So the negotiation of the contract did not go very well to start. And the people that I was working for at the time, they weren't very kind to me as a first year coach. So as a guy who just got his job. So I should have saw the writing on the wall from that point on. But it's hard. You realize that it's not just about practice and recruiting. and that's a big part of what you do. You realize you got to do a whole lot of other things when you become a head coach. It pulls you in so many different directions in terms of fundraising and speaking and meeting with people and handling other stuff that goes along, putting out fires and trying to get your program and do things within your program that makes it right for your kids. So it's like running a business. It's like running a business where when you first get into coaching, you just think the coaches just come to practice and you go to the games. When you're a player, you think these guys just showing up. They do a little recruiting because they recruited you, but you think these guys just showing up and just really just going to practice and going to the games. But you realize when you become a head coach, it's a lot different from that. And you have to learn how to really, what I call, juggle your balls. You know what I mean? To make sure that things are going right. Because if you drop one of them, the other two could fall too. So if you're a juggler. So you got to really learn how to really handle your business on, off the court, and away from the court. So it becomes very tough. And I got thrown into it. And the thing that made it really, I learned a lot, I will say, is because we were going through the thing with Marcus. So the one thing that became really the scrutiny of the media, I got that firsthand. You know what I mean? So because I was answering all the questions about what was going on with the investigation and all those things like that. And I wasn't ready for that. You know what I mean? I wasn't a head coach when this stuff happened, although I was an assistant. So that was one of the things that was definitely an eye opener because I was constantly asked questions about what's going on with the investigation. Are you going on probation? Those types of how's it going to affect your program? I was like, I don't know. I haven't even coached a game in it yet. You know what I mean? So those are the type of things. But they threw me into it. That was really an eye opener for me when I started.
So, Brew, as an assistant, I'm gonna give you assistant and head coach one again. Like, what was your best and worst scouting report? Like, I think people don't understand. Like, you can have a great scout report. Teams don't play well, but then you can have a okay scout report and the teams play well. Like, what was your best and worst scout report?
I'll tell you one of my worst scouting reports was we're going to play at George Mason. Right now, I'll be honest with you. I was the same guy did all the scouting reports for us. I wanted to have some continuity. I wanted him. You know what I mean? That was the one guy I went to. What they're doing today. What do you think we should do? I tell them what I saw from, going over my scouts, doing it myself. So we're going to change up a little thing. We're going to go to Mason, right? And so we talk about changing up. We go through, we walk through it, all that stuff like that. I think we had a couple of days, so you actually were able to practice it. And they start the game on a 30-0 run. So I turned to my assistant and said, yeah, that shit really worked that you talked about. So that was it right there. I was like, yo, I'd never forget. They absolutely clobbered us down there. It wasn't even close. L used to put it on you too. He would not lift up. So them guys clobbered. I said, there you go. That's what we get for changing, right? So I was pissed. And I think one of my best scouting reports was we played and we won when I was at Drexel at Louisville. And Mike Connors, who did all my scouts, he says, we can get this one. And I was like, you think? It was like, they had just opened up the new Yum Center, right? They had played 3 games in it. I watched the game on TV. They beat the hell out of somebody. So we talked about, what we need to do. I give my players credit. They followed it to the T. And Mike actually told me when we go in, because we only had a day prep. We had a game, we had a day, then we had to go to Louisville. Right. So he says, so it was more of a walkthrough than anything else. And Mike actually told me, he was like, tell these guys we can get this one. He said, just tell them that from the beginning. Yo, we can get this one if we follow the game plan. We can get these guys, I'm telling you. So that's what we did. And I went in, I said, yo, we can get this one. We do certain things, we do it. Guys followed it to the T. We went there and we were the first team to win in the Yum Center. And where Louisville plays. So we went there and we got them. So that was probably, I would say, because, it started from the beginning. Like, yo, tell these guys how confident, be confident when we can get this one. Plus, they were ranked. So, we going in, it's Rick Pitino. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things when we went in there and we were pretty good at it.
Wow, it's pretty good. And that team that 2012 team may have gone to the Final Four, maybe, right? Was that?
No. That team. I think they lost in like the second round or the
Oh,
sweep.
okay. I thought it was because I remember it was close in that range. Like,
so they had Peyton Siva, my man that transferred from Manhattan. They had another kid that went to the pros, so they had a pretty decent team. But they got I want to say they got upset in the NCAA tournament by somebody though.
That team was pretty good.
Yeah. So they had a good squad.
Biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you've been a college coach?
I think the biggest change has been the parents. I think the parents, when I first got into college coaching, like kids went on visits on their own. You know what I mean? So, and I wouldn't say you didn't deal with the parents, but the parents weren't as involved as they are now. They come on the visits. They ask all the questions. My parents always came because I always had a lot of kids that lived in the area, so their parents came to the game. But they're way more involved in their lives than they would back then. Back then, they dropped them off and said, "You got them for 4 years, yo, man. You know what I mean? Bring me a man back. You know what I mean? I got you. Bring me a man back now. Now, every step of the way, they're there, and they question you as much as the kids do. You know what I mean? Why they doing this? Why we doing that? And you look at them sometimes like, what they call them helicopter parents. And I think you have way more of those now than you did then. I think that's the biggest adjustment that's been. Kids are going to be kids. You know what I mean? You're going to have some that come in, they're ready. You're going to have some that come in, they're not. You're going to have some mature ones. You're going to have some immature ones. So your kids, I think, have been the same. But I think the parents coming in, for good or bad, have been the thing. They pay way more attention to it. They're on their kids way more than anything else. Where when I first got in coaching, my first 10, 12 years in coaching, you rarely heard from a parent. They just wanted to make sure the kid wasn't in trouble. You know what I mean? Make sure he was doing okay in school. But they let him go on. They let him go on and grew up on their own. Now it's not like that. Not like that at all.
So true. That's so true. Do you ever find that there are things about you that people like misunderstand, and what are they?
Well, I'm a little crazy on it. I was always a little crazy on the court, so everybody thinks I'm like that. People that work with me at Drexel, when especially when we got in the CAA, people were like, "How do you work with that guy?" And they'd be like, "Yo, he actually might be the nicest guy in the in the department." Like Bruiser's not like that every day. You know what I mean? He's only like that when we're competing. And I told this person one time, my boss actually was at Drexel, was a psychologist. He used to always tell me, "Your come down is the best I've ever seen in my life. For you to be the way you are in the game, and then they'll see you come and walk into the press room afterwards." He goes, I'm amazed how you come down. But I was like, dude, if I was like that all the time, I'd be dead. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have that. You can't be that way. You mean like you would burst. You know what I mean? You would burst from the inside. You'd have a heart attack. So, and everybody who's around me knows I'm pretty laid back. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty laid back guy. Just when I start coaching, I'm pretty intense. And but when I'm away from the court, I think one of the reasons why I've always had great relations with my players is because of that. Because I didn't keep that intensity on. When we're practicing and we're playing, they know the deal. When it's over, we hang out, we chill, we sit down, we talk, and I'm not always going at them all the time that way. And so people look at me sometimes and like, I know this guy's crazy to be around, but I'm not like that at all. I'm probably one of the most laid back guys you ever been around.
Hey, I totally agree with you. I definitely concur with that. Like, I mean, that's the competitive side. You want to win, like, and so. But I've seen you plenty of times, like, I definitely can say that. Yeah, you are a totally different person. It's just the competitive side.
Yes.
Like, and you kind of touched on it. So, like, what qualities? Well, I'll take that back. What would you try to teach your players besides basketball? Because we all know we're educators in this business. You coach them, but like you kind of mentioned it earlier, like what do you try to teach your players besides basketball?
One of the things I used to always tell my guys is don't let anybody just treat you like a basketball player, right? I used to always tell my guys, somebody's going to be in that jersey when you leave. And if people are going to cheer for you, the things that you do when you're here, you take care of your business. And this is why you come to college. You come to college so that I can go and have a productive life afterwards, because the ball doesn't always bounce. So take care of your business while you're there. Because as long as you got that jersey on, they're going to cheer for you. What happens when you take that jersey off? When it's over, when it's all said and done, right? So if you handle your business, somebody will take care of you. But they have to see that. And don't let them just treat you as a player. Don't just be a jersey. That's what I used to tell them all the time. Because you're taking that jersey off at some time. Take advantage of of what they call the platform now that you're involved in. Take advantage of that. Make sure you know people. Let people know you more as a person, not just the guy with a number on his back. So that was one of the things I used to talk to my guys about all the time. That, and there's nothing wrong with shirt and tie. And the guys used to wait, yo, dude, you go to college to get a degree, and now you might just have to go get a job. That's success. Especially my hood guy. My hood guys, because you go back to the hood and people don't see you playing anymore, and they look at you and be like, what happened? And I'd be like, yo, that's not always all you go to college. You go to college to get an education and be able to further yourself in life. So that's as much a success as anything else. Don't let anybody nobody put you down because they might not see you dribbling no more and playing. Then what happened to you? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Because guys mentally get a little messed up about that. So I used to tell them, there's nothing wrong with shirt and tie. Shirt and tie is good. When it's all said and done, if I go get me a job, I got me a nice shirt and nice tie and nice jacket, that means I've had some success. That's success also. So I tried to beat that into my guys and have them sort of understand that basketball is not just the only thing you're going to be able to do. Plus, I coached at one of those places where, dude, this is why you're coming here. Like, you're not necessary. If you go play, that's gravy for you. That's gravy. If you can go play, that's gravy. Like that's the cherry on top of the ice cream. But you're coming here to get a degree, and in the end, get you a great job and go on and be productive in life. So that's one of the things I always talk to guys about.
That's deep, man. That's deep. What qualities did you look for in hiring assistant coaches?
One of the things is, as I started getting older into it, I always hire my former players. One, because, you always want somebody who understands what you're doing. But even the guys that came outside, I want to see a guy, one, who represent himself very well. Obviously working hard. But one guy, I'd look at him and say, yo, he can represent me. There's just certain things I wanted him to do. Like he had respect for himself and what he did and represented whoever he's working for before me. So when I looked at a guy, I said, okay, all right, I can see him working for me. Of course, you want a guy to be able to work hard. I want a guy to be able to teach. And the jobs that I've had jobs in which you had to get the players better. You wasn't necessarily rolling a guy in and all of a sudden, like he gonna be a pro in a year. That's not where I worked at. I worked at places where we have to get players better. So you got to be able to work guys out. You got to be able to get guys better. One of the things I learned from John Calipari was that's where you actually get your bond with your guys. If they feel as though you're getting them better, then they'll run through a wall for you. And not only that too, you'll be able to have a great communicative relationship with them. They'll talk to you because they feel as though you're getting them better. You're getting them better as a ball player. And that's when you can talk about the other stuff as you start to move on with them in your program. But I always thought there's one who's going to represent well, one who's going to really teach. And I think, as an assistant coach, you always got to try to learn. And even if, I always felt as though, because this is how I brought up in the business, I thought Fang and Cal, they taught me to get myself ready to be a coach, to be a head coach. I think that's part of it, a job. But you also too got to pay attention to what the guy's showing you. I didn't do everything that Cal told me to do. I had my own ideas when I got my head coaching job. Now, I worked for the guy for a long enough time to say, you know what? I'm going to use a lot of stuff because it worked. You know what I mean? But as you go along, you have to have your ideas. All my guys that got into coaching, you know, it's a little different now. You do it on the phone. I just say, have your own little book. You might see stuff on a scout that you like. Write it down. You never know when you're gonna need it, or like, yo, I saw him do this. Let me put this. Let me store this away. I mean, if I get my opportunity, I might want to do this. So that's one of the things I said. You got to continually learn it. Even now, even myself and as an assistant coach, like I'm trying to learn. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get myself better, just in case I get the opportunity again. But I want to learn. Not only that too, I want to learn so I can get my players better. Because if they get better, then we're gonna all eat from that. So that's one of the things that I tried to do.
Great stuff, man. Like, okay, it's you get the job, you know, it's the spring, but now it comes, you know, you've had we're not even gonna count preseason, the summer workouts and preseason stuff, but like it's the first practice. Like now, you know, it's your team. So like, what was that first practice like? First game when you're finally in control of your program.
I always say the one thing that you learn as you go on in coaching was my practices was like 4 hours long my first year because I want to do every single thing I had on the practice plan. That's one of the things that you learn as you go along. You don't have to do that. You got to. So now because, you know, after a while, you lose them. You're losing your players. But my first year, I mean, we did every single thing on that practice plan. And my guys who play for me, they talk about how long our practices were. But you learn how to sort of pick and choose. Okay, we're not going to do this today as we're going. Or if it's something that you want to stay on, now you're going to knock this off. So that's why I think that's the biggest thing in your practice plan. It's not trying to do everything on your practice plan that first year, because your practices get really, really, really long. And you got to remember now too, I actually also started when we didn't have all these restrictions with time. So now a 4-hour practice wasn't a big, and then go watch film, that wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? A 6-hour day in the gym, that wasn't a big deal. Let's go, right? But that's one of the biggest things. I laugh about that today. And a lot of coaches talk about that. You know, I remember talking to Ash when he got his job and everything. I said, look, one of the biggest things you're going to have to worry about is not doing everything on the practice plan. And the guys that work for him was like, yo, man, our practices are long. And I said, Ash, trying to do everything on the practice. We want to go over every single thing. So I thought that was my biggest adjustment, but you get better at it as it goes along.
Now, what was that first game like? Because now you've been assistant. Like, what was that? You know, you walk out. And the thing about it, I forgot to mention this. Your strength of schedule at UMass, man, who signed up for those games? That's what I want to know.
That's one reason why I didn't last, because the AD did the schedule. And then when I asked him to let me take it over, he said no. So that's when I knew I was getting fired. But honestly, you know, if you're a little nervous, but once you get into the game, you're fine. You know, especially if you did your prep. You know what I mean? You did your prep, you watched, you know what I mean? You do those things. So, and, you know, you're just trying to learn from each game going forward. You're going to have a certain coaching style. You know, I was, you know, like I said, I was an intense guy, and I stayed that way. So, but I actually thought I was ready. You're a little nervous at the beginning, but once you get into it, like, you know, I was fine. I always felt as though, because everybody, you've been on the sideline against me. You see it, and coaches be like, yo, calm Bruiser down. Like, stop him, get him off the court. Honestly, I never looked at the other coach. I never looked out there. I never looked down the other end and had the referee. That was never my focus. Now, I paid attention who was subbing in, but my focus was always what's going on in the court. I never worried about the other coach. Not one time I ever looked down there and say, hey, look at him out of the box or do anything like that. I've never done that in my life. I never focused on that. My focus was always on the floor or who was going in the game. So that's one of the things. I think I got, ultra focused in terms of pay attention to what's going on the floor. Now, I've had a couple instances where some fans got a little crazy. I said some stuff too, but other than that, I've always felt that I stayed pretty focused, and I think I had that from the beginning.
Wow, that's pretty good because that usually don't happen. So, like you've been in it a long time, and there's so much, man. We talk about it like this profession. I mean, 12, 15, 16-hour days. I mean, 7 days a week. I mean, 355, 360 days out the year. When you go on vacation, you're really not on vacation. Like, you take your cell phone out, you got to sneak calls or whatever. But, like, what did you have to give up to achieve your current level of success?
I'm going to be honest with you. My family took a beating. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. That's why I don't have a wife right now. But my family took a beating because you're not home. And she going to raise the family by herself pretty much. All the young guys, we had a couple of young guys on our staff get married. And, they were living with their wives, their spouses now before. And we used to go out. And I used to talk to them about that. And I said, right now, they're in a position where they're home all the time. But as they start to move up, that don't happen. And I said, the more success they start to have, the less he's going to probably be home. Now, I will say this. Back in the day when I first got into college, your summers were off. There was no workouts. You know what I mean? There was none of that stuff like that. So, you got away with, all right, from the end of school to the beginning of school, if you wanted to go away for 6 weeks, you could do that. Now, you still had to do certain things. You had to make calls and do all that stuff like that. But you could take that much time. Now with the new rules, okay, you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're always working. I mean, always working. And so that makes it even harder on the family. Your wife better be very understanding because it's hard. I mean, it's hard because you're always gone. Plus, you're taking care of a family. You got two families now. You got your team and you got your home. You know what I mean? That's the thing that you have to juggle a little bit. And you have to handle those guys. They're like your sons, okay? And then your family at home. So it takes a toll on families. And I tell people to make sure y'all understand what you're getting yourself into, because it's a tough business for wives and even girlfriends to that extent.
So true, man. So true. Like you've been around long enough, and this is kind of the lighter side of things, but what is the strangest, maybe the craziest or different thing a player has done that outside of the basketball
court? I'm trying to think.
I've had some guys that say, well, I can tell you something that led to the basketball court, but like, what's this thing you like, something you seen like, wow, I couldn't believe that happened, or it might have came back to you from, what assistant coach, like, can you believe this? What happened? We don't have to say no names, but
I haven't had, but I think I was a little strict, you know what I mean? So them guys tried to keep some of that stuff. They tried to keep some of that stuff away from me because they know what might happen. But I would say probably one of the most interesting things that happened was we had a guy who was a DJ on the school radio show, and he used to always be tired at practice. And I'd be like, yo, my man, why are you so tired? And he wouldn't tell me. Then the guys on the team was like, yo, you gotta listen to his DJ, because he used to do like 12 to 2. Like, yo, idiot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man, right? Like, what are you doing? But I think that's probably probably the most interesting thing that probably ever happened to me with my guys. So it was not, I wouldn't say nothing, nothing super crazy. So that was
okay. Biggest accomplishment you have experienced since you been in college coaching?
Well, we went to the Final Four at UMass. So I mean, that's you're not getting much better than that unless you win a national championship. So we went to the Final Four. We went to the Elite Eight. We won some good games. My teams at Drexel went to 2 preseason NITs and played Duke. Memphis, you know what I mean? So we played that. But I would say the biggest accomplishment definitely going to the Final Four when I was at UMass as an assistant.
Yeah, that was a pretty good team, man. I mean, you have Marcus Camby, but like you had some other guys there too.
Yeah,
like,
we had some dudes. We had some
Dante Bright. I mean, you had some guys on that team.
We had some
Yeah.
dudes, some guys on that side. Tough too. Tough. But I just talked to a guy about I was on this other podcast and this guy asked me about the team. You know, we only played 6 players. As people don't realize on that squad, like we never took Edgar and Carmelo. We never took the 2 Puerto Rican guards out. They played the whole game. If we did, we would bring Tyrone Weeks. But Tyrone Weeks played a lot. Charlton Clark played some, but he broke his leg at the beginning of January. He didn't actually come back until the NCAA tournament. So we played 6 players. Those guys never came off the court. We had some versatility. We would slide Dante back. We would slide Dana back. If one of the Puerto Ricans got in trouble, Edgar or Carmelo got in trouble with anything. But those guys were really good defensive players, never fouled.
Wow.
Never fouled. It was unbelievable. Me and Cal talk about that all the time. They stayed in the game. They played pretty much 40 minutes a game, never fouled. Never fouled. So.
Wow. This is kind of like, you got to think about it. Maybe you don't. I mean, you're a basketball guy, so you might be locked on, but like, what movie or TV show title best describes your week?
Best describe my week? Like now?
I mean, it's like during the year, like trust the season. It could be, yeah. What describes your week?
I don't know. That's a tough one right there. TV show? Man. Describes my week. I would probably say maybe Games of Thrones because you know you're doing so much battling. You know what I mean? You're doing so much battling and everything like that, and some of the dramas you put up with. So I would say that would be it if you're a coach. I would say Games of Thrones because it goes back and forth. You know what I mean? So I would probably say that. Plus that's one.
I like that one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
So that's it.
What's your and I've been around you, so it's really interesting to hear this and how people take it. But like, what's your favorite word or phrase?
Can I say it on the podcast?
You can say it. Hey, you know what it is? It's for adults. When I go on YouTube, it says, it's kids. I mean, you can say what you want. But
well, you know, everybody says I call them a motherfucker, right? So I greet the guys in practice. What's up, motherfucker? So it's funny because this year, Justin Smith, the kid who was on our team who transferred, he says, that's your word, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. And I said, yeah, that's my word. So he was like, okay. He says, I'm not offended. You use it very well, but you greet everybody with, what's up, motherfucker? So my guys who actually play for me, when they call me on the phone, this is how crazy it is. When they call me on the phone and they leave a message, the first thing they say is, what's up, motherfucker? Call me back. So that's my word that I use probably when I shouldn't be, but that's the word I use. That's sort of like if you talk to anybody, they'll say that to you. They'll say that that's what I say because all my former players, they sort of greet me that way. so they call me, yo, motherfucker, call me, y'all, because they know that's what I called them. That's how I greeted everybody when they played for me. So that's it right there. That is it.
Love it. That's why I couldn't wait for it. So. that might be my highlight of the whole show right there. What's the best piece of advice, man? You've been around, you know, like you were around Cal, but like not even that. Just growing up in Philly, man, Sunny Hill, like just anyone. Like, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
One of the funniest pieces of advice was with my dad. And he said this to me one time. He says, you know, just talk about working hard and everything. And he says, even if you're going to be a bum, be the best bum. That's what he said to me. And I was like, this guy just kept finished saying, but I got it. You know what I mean? I got it. And I will say I've been given a lot of real great talked. One of the things about coaching, and he's absolutely right. John Chaney, I was younger, and so I told him, I said, man, I'm gonna be doing this when I'm like 70 something years old. You know, I'm not gonna be that age. And he said this to me, which is true. And I really learned it when I sat out the year and I didn't work. He says, the kids, he says, one, you're gonna have to work that long because you guys made a lot of money earlier than my generation. He said, you guys have made a lot of money way before we did when I was coming up. But he also said too, he says, you'll miss the kids that keep you energized. And he said, as you'll get older, you'll start to feel it. He says, the kids keep you young. He says, you know, when you get older, you'll start to feel that. And I'll be honest, that was the one thing I really missed the year I didn't really work, because I wasn't around the kids every day. I weren't around them. They didn't bring that energy, which you have to bring that energy. So he says, it keeps you young. He said, that's why you'll stay in this business longer than anything else. Forget the money. He says, the kids are energized. You love that as you start to get older. And he's right. He's right.
That's good. That's good stuff, because that's the one question everybody asks me, like, man, do you miss it, the coach? And I'm like, man, it's actually the kids. Like, just being in the locker room, talking to those guys, like, that was the joy. Like, you know, knowing what's going on in their life and things of that nature. Basketball, that's second nature, because, like you said, if they truly believe in you, they'll do a whole lot for you. And I don't think people understand that. Those are relationships you got to build with them. Just to, like, ask them how they're doing. I like something that Coach Cal does. Like, he brings them in a couple times a week, and you don't have to always ask about basketball. Yes. You can ask about their life. Yes. You know, how their family doing. Like, that stuff is important to them, and that's what a lot of coaches don't get sometimes. Like, yo, man, like, you just can't ask them about basketball all the time. Like, they're going to tune you out eventually if that happens.
Yes. No doubt. You make it all about basketball, it becomes. One of the things I actually even do to the day is, like, after we finished, we stretched, even at Indiana. We stretched at Indiana. And I just go around the whole circle and talk to the guys. I might talk about what happened in practice, but I'll ask them about their girls, their moms, you know what I mean? Your little brother, I know your little brother playing. So I try to pick something that I know that might be going on with them that might not necessarily be basketball. Sometimes I talk to them about practice, but I try to get that, you know what I mean, and talk to them a little bit to go around to let them know, like, it's just not about basketball for me. Because like you said, if they just think it's all about basketball, they tune you out. And they definitely tune you out.
Yeah. Like I said, we talked about your record and stuff earlier, and, you know, wins and losses, that's big. But, like, what does success mean to you? What does that mean to you?
You know, that's a tough question, because I want to have a happy life. I want to be happy. And your success doesn't always make you happy. You know, I learned that when I lost my job and I was going through a divorce, you know what I mean, in life. But I like happiness. I want everybody around me to be happy. I want to be happy. I'm a happy guy. So for me, that's the thing. I want everybody to, you know, have, like I said, have happiness. And success doesn't always bring that. You wonder why guys lose their mind when you think they got everything. Because honestly, deep down, they're not happy. You know what I mean? So for me, success for me is just have happiness around me. And with every walk in life that I try to have. If I have that, then I don't need to have a whole lot of money. I don't need to win a whole lot of games. I just want to be happy. I just want to have some happiness.
Love that, man. I love that. Speaking of happy, where's your happy place? Like, where is that?
What do you mean in terms of?
So, you know, some people like, man, I love going to the gym. Some people like, you know, I know a friend of mine, he's already been on, and he was like, I call him, or he'll text me right back and say, I'm in third. So I automatically know he's in the movie theater alone. Like, he might be watching a movie or something like that. So, you know, like, that's his happy place, or some lifting weights. But what's your happy place?
Actually, I'm a reader. So, you know, I read some books, and I like to just get a couple of hours where I just sit back and I read. So I think that's when I'm more relaxed and I'm happy. I'm not worrying about anything else. You know what I mean? So I'm into my own thing, what I'm focused on with my reading, and hoping it's a really good book. But I think that's when I'm probably at my most relaxed. So that's, that's what I do. So, just sitting back, just reading a good book and getting things off my mind. I think that's probably my most relaxed place at. I like to do a lot of things though. I'm a movie guy myself, and I won't call myself a foodie, but I'm a guy that likes to go to different restaurants, eat the food, drink the wine. You know what I mean? That's my thing. I think that's one of the things to do. But if I want to really relax, I just grab me a book and I go chill out for a couple hours. So
Awesome. That's good. That's a good place to be.
yeah.
You've never, like, this is one thing you've always been. You're not cocky. You're confident, which that's always, maybe that's the Philly in most guys I know. I mean, but like, if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
I think when you're around me, I bring a little energy. Okay. I think I'm a nice guy. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty nice guy. Oh man, what else? And I would just say, you will find out that I'm a pretty happy person. So, I'm gonna bring good energy. I mean, I'm a pretty nice guy with everybody, and I'm happy to be around. Like when you're around me, you know what I mean? Don't bring a whole bunch of negativity. That's not my thing. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty happy guy. I'm gonna talk to you, and I'm gonna do that. And I just try to be as nice to people as I possibly can. So that's it right there.
Awesome. What person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Yeah, I'm old, man, so I'd have had a few things. I'd have had a few things. I think one of the biggest things for me was my dad died. My dad died, and I sort of became the matriarch of the family. It's a different responsibility because he died pretty young, cancer, and he pretty much said to me, "All right, man, it's on you now. You know what I mean? Take care of the family, not just my immediate family, not just my wife and my daughter, but my sister and I had a cousin, those like that." He was like, "Okay, because that's what he did." You know what I mean? So he sort of handed down, and it's a tough responsibility sometimes, but he sort of handed it down, and I think that sort of changed. I think I became a person who, I know I had to be responsible for not just my immediate, but everybody else around me. That's probably the biggest thing right there. And probably I would say probably also too, becoming a head coach, getting fired, becoming a head coach, getting fired. You learn some things and from yourself. So I've had a pretty blessed life. So I can't say I've had a whole lot of trauma. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of good things happen to me, man. I take things as they come. You know what I mean? I didn't get down when I got let go or the places I got let go. I just kept on going. You know what I mean? I think that's where the whole happy thing comes in at. You know what I mean? When you're positive that way, then you know what? Things gonna work out for you in the end.
So true. And speaking of that, talking about head coaching and let go, but like, and I like to ask this because I know this is what I feel. This is my personal opinion. Like when you get another shot at being a head coach, and you said it kind of earlier, especially with the year sitting out. But like, are there any changes you would like, you would make from the type of staff you had before, or style of play, or type of players from your last program? Like, what would those be when you got your shot again?
I think one of the things I may change as a staff is maybe bring another head coach on. I know Arch has always told me that just having somebody who understands what you're going through, okay, that helps. He's always told me that's helped him out. You know what I mean? So I would probably, so you have somebody to really throw it off of them, and they have an answer somewhat. Not they ain't got to be similar, but they've been through a lot of the same things. But from a staff standpoint, I'm trying to keep the same guys who want to hustle, guys who want to present, guys who can teach. So I mean, those are the types of things. But if I had somebody who had a little bit more experience in terms of being a head coach, and I never had that as when I had my 2 jobs, I didn't worry about that. But I know in talking to Arch, he always talks to me about that. Like, it's good to have somebody I can throw things off you. I can throw a question out there, and the answer you're gonna give me gonna be different from the other guys because you've experienced it. So that I would probably do that a little bit differently.
No. And you know what? You're starting to see that more and more in college
Yes,
basketball, where
yes, yes.
guys just feel comfortable.
Yes,
hiring.
especially too at the Power Five levels, things like that, because these are hard jobs. The pressure is unbelievable on these guys. Now you make a lot of money, but the pressure is unbelievable. So you're gonna need somebody that can, at times, give you direction. I mean, because they've experienced also too. They've had some same experience in these things too. So I think that might be a little bit different.
All right, man. We're gonna end with this question, and it's I like to end with this just because it is also teaching some younger guys, whether becoming an assistant or a head coach, but like knowing what you know now, like what would you tell your young self to prepare for as a head coach or even an assistant coach? What would you tell yourself?
I think it's kind of hard because once you become a head coach, it's somewhat trial by error. But I think what you have to do is you got to prepare. You know what I mean? I always used to use this. If you came in my locker room, pressure's not to perform, pressure's to prepare. You prepare, you perform. That used to be in my locker room. Everybody that's ever played with me, from the first days at UMass to my last days at Drexel, right? Pressure's not to perform, pressure's to prepare. You prepare, you perform. So I think you have to prepare yourself because you're going to run into things that not necessarily that are uh, uh, kind of fluid. You know what I mean? You're not going to, everything is not going to necessarily be, nailed to the ground. You're going to go through some stuff. So, but the most important thing is you prepare yourself. Like I said earlier, when you talked about the things that go on outside of basketball, you're not prepared for that because you've never really been into that. Uh, and and I've worked for a guy, John Calipari, who actually he would bring me into the meetings with boosters and have dinners with him and all those things like that. But you're still not ready for that stuff when you become a head coach, because instead of doing it once, I'm doing it once a month or once every 2 months. You're doing it 2 or 3 days a week. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you're trying to raise money or do all those things like that. But the biggest thing is prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Now you'll have confidence, and even have confidence in when you make a mistake. I think that's one of the biggest things. Guys, they make a mistake and they get down, it becomes the end of the earth. So when you're prepared and you're really confident in yourself and what you're doing, because that's one of the things the players can tell. Like, as much as we look at these guys as kids, they know whether or not you know what you think you're doing. If they don't, it's over. You know what I mean? They quitting. They like, yo, this guy, he don't know what he's doing. And nowadays they'll tell you. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing right there. Prepare yourself. They have to look at you and say, he has confidence in what he's doing. If you don't, you're not getting anything out of him. So that goes from the guys I coached in the 80s to the guys I coached in the 2000s. So that's one of the biggest things. I would say, every job I've had, even when although I learned some stuff from UMass, it was different than going to Drexel. I mean, it was different. So everything is not the same. But if you're prepared yourself, you'll have the confidence that, you know what, I can handle this, whatever comes to me.
Great stuff, man. And I want to thank you again for being a guest on this show and being unmasked. Anything you want to leave with the people, man, before we go?
One of the things that, Martin, we do this little thing. I want guys to help out each other more. When I was coming through coaching, when I was a young buck, you guys don't know these names, but Kenny Williamson, Eggman, Wayne Morgan, a man from St. John's. I'm getting old, so but those guys took care of me. They taught me about the business. They talked to me about a lot of things. I was their young boy. You know what I mean? So they took care of me in that way. And I want the older guys and the younger guys to do the same type of thing, because that's how we're going to get better at this thing. Look out for one another. I think at times we got to the point it's become too competitive. And your line, the way you can communicate is way different than when I could communicate it when I first came to business. Either wrote a letter, you try to get a guy on the phone, that was hard. Now it's so much easier so build some camaraderie, more camaraderie with each other and help each other along. Bring guys with you. Those types of things like that. That's how we're going to get better. So I would say to the younger guys and the younger generation, don't forget that. When I was growing up and I played in the Sunny Hill League, they had a thing, reach back to go forward. That was their thing, reach back to go forward. I always remembered that for some odd reason. And you know what? That's what I think. That's what I try to do at times. And I hope the younger guys coming up that they do that. Help guys out, reach back to go forward so we can go forward in this business.
That's great words, man. And we're going to end with that. So,
right.
I mean, I love that because that was one of the things that like you said, that was missing. And I think a lot of guys got caught up on, they're worried about the guy behind them taking their job. And, you know, that's not what it was about. And so I truly echo the same words you just spoke, man. Like that is so true. But thank you, viewers, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.